A big night for the road teams. Welcome to Stanley Cupdate, product of the NHL Wraparound podcast for Friday, April 24th, 2026. Vic and Neil taking you into the weekend, and on Thursday, Sabres get a leg up, and the Hurricanes and Avalanche within a win of advancing to round two.
Yeah, it was quite a night for the Carolina Hurricanes and the Colorado Avalanche, who are both smelling it now.
We're going to start in Boston, where Sabres and Bruins entered that game tied at 1 win apiece. I got to tell you something before we get into this game, that I think all of us have our favorite anthem singers. And, of course, you and I go back to the days of Roger Doucette in Montreal. And, of course, there was Kate Smith in Philadelphia with God Bless America. You're so familiar with John Amarante in Madison Square Garden. And for so many years, Rene Rancourt was the anthem singer in Boston. And after he left, I thought it was going to be really difficult to find somebody that had that kind of presence to replace him. And this fellow, Todd Angeli, who's a big guy, big voice, but he's got this tremendous caricature about him, and that's a seamless transition for the Bruins, at least in the anthem department, with the pumping of the fist at the end and him jogging off. And I just love the way he gets the crowd riled up at TD Garden before a game.
And this is the thing about an anthem singer, is that you have to keep the same guy to make it part of the show. And I always felt that way. When I got to the Garden, they were doing different people all the time. And I got John Amarante, who I thought was the best guy that we had, and said, you're going to do it every game because I want people to come to the game, and that's part of it. That's what you saw on TV. That's what you heard on the radio. Now you're seeing it live. And I think the same thing happens in these other buildings, and it's part of the whole show. It builds a crescendo to the game starting.
To start this game, lineup change for the Buffalo Sabres. Josh Norris out, but Noah Ostlund inserted into the lineup by Lindy Ruff. Ostlund was the 16th pick in 2022, had 11 goals, 27 points in 60 games, and he would play a role in this game. Also, Alex Lyon starting in goal for the Sabres. He replaced Ukko PekkaLuukkonen when it was 4-0 in Game 2. And right off the bat, Lyon makes two big stops during the Bruins' first power play of the game off Pavel Zacha. But in the second period, Tanner Jeannot scores short side, 3:26 of the second. And at that point, the Bruins were kind of ready to take control of this game. And then midway through the period, Mattias Samuelsson broke his stick on an attempted outlet pass. Puck was taken by Victor Arvidsson. He came in alone. He's slashed by Rasmus Dahlin. Penalty shot number 4 of the playoffs. And if the Sabres go on to win this series, this very well may have been the turning point, because no goal on the penalty shot, and 68 seconds later, it's Ostlund getting the puck to Bowen Byram to tie the score.
Yeah, Ostlund had a great game. He was very noticeable in replacing Josh Norris, was Noah Ostlund, and that was a really good play where he got the puck to Bowen Byram. It's amazing that the only goal that the Bruins could get comes from Jeannot, who rarely scores a goal, and was able to get one here, and the Sabres were able to tie it up. And then I thought that the Sabres started to take control of the game once they got it tied up.
You know, they had 5 more power plays in this game, and we had talked about how much of a struggle it was. They were 0 for 31 entering this, and now 0 for 36. And when you watch that power play, their zone entries are not great. They move the puck around, but there's not a lot of traffic in front. Like, they may move a guy in towards the net, but there's no appreciable screening of the goaltender or anything to make Jeremy Swayman's life difficult. I mean, it's not a good power play right now.
Well, 0 for 36 might indicate that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm master of the obvious here. Oddly enough, early in the third period, about 4 minutes in, it's Alex Tuck getting the go-ahead goal on a terrific screen by Tage Thompson. So everything that's not happening on the power play happens on this play, and it puts the Sabres ahead.
They never look back after this, and this is in enemy territory. And you were waiting during this game. I was waiting for Boston to start to put that push on, waiting for the Pasternak goal, waiting for McAvoy to do something, but it wasn't to be.
Lyon had to make 10 saves in the third and was the backstop, while the Bruins had 2 consecutive power plays in the second half of that third period. But what about Östlund? Once again, at the end of the game, Lindy Ruff has him on the ice, and he outraces 3 Bruins for the puck on an empty net attempt, and then instead of trying to jam it in, does a little bit of a spinorama, and he beats David Pasternak, who was trying to play goal.
I told you, Noah Östlund was very evident in this game. Great choice by Lindy Ruff and his coaching staff to put him into the lineup, and it paid dividends for them.
Game 4 of this series, not until Sunday at 2 o'clock on TNT. So I ask you here, Neil, as a former GM, you've got an extra day off. The flight back to Buffalo from Boston is only an hour and a half. Do you fly home after this game, or you just stay in Boston? I'm not sure what the Sabres did, actually.
I would think that they would just stay in Boston and stay together. I mean, the one thing I wouldn't want is for everybody to go home. Not that I don't want them to see their families and that, but I want them to all stay together and bond together and stay in the mindset that you need, that you want to win another game before you go back. You want to go home up 3-1. So for me, I would stay in Boston, have them stay there, do things together, practice together, obviously, in Boston. On the ice, they're going to play the game 4 on. And stay there. I don't know what Lindy Ruff decided to do.
It's not like there's nothing to do in Boston either.
No, there's a lot to do there. But the thing that's important is that you keep everybody together and just thinking about hockey.
Carolina Hurricanes now up 3-0 in their series against the Ottawa Senators with a 2-1 win on Thursday evening. Artem Zub remained out. Tyler Klevin back in the lineup for Ottawa. And I thought, and I think we both did, Senators needed a quick start after the 2 losses in Carolina. And it's Logan Stankoven getting on the board with his 3rd of the series for the Hurricanes just over 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah, but Taylor Hall is playing terrific right now, and he made a terrific play to get it to Stankoven. These two seem to know where each other is all the time. Stankoven with the one-timer. He scores in every game, does Logan Stankoven, and this was a great one. And it really put the Senators, I thought, back on their heels and all of their fans and quieted the building.
And the Senators also had to kill 3 consecutive penalties after that in the first period. There was nothing to their game, to me, that was appreciable, particularly in that first period. They did get 8 shots on goal, opposed to the 10 by the Hurricanes, but I was totally underwhelmed by that period, and I'm certain that Travis Green had something to say in that intermission, because in the second period, the Hurricanes wound up taking all 5 penalties, and the Senators had a minute and 28 of 5-on-3 time, and you thought, okay, if there's a time where we may get a little bit of a flip in this series and that Ottawa's going to take hold, they're going to tie the game, maybe go ahead, play with the lead, and we'll see what that looks like. Their power play throughout that second period was dreadful in every respect. Zone entry, puck retrieval, decision-making. It sucked.
It did, and the puck was out of the zone more than it was in the zone. It was easy for Carolina. Ottawa just didn't get it going. They didn't get organized. As you said, they didn't come into the zone properly. They never got to set up. It just was bad. Carolina really had an easy time of it.
When you're giving your opposition an easy time of it, and you've got a 5-on-3, not very good.
No, obviously not. And they were, as you said, dreadful in all respects.
To make matters worse for the Senators, star defenseman Jake Sanderson left middle of the second period after he blocked a shot with his hand off the stick of Jackson Blake. But going back earlier in the period, the Senators were upset that there was a minor penalty among those 5 power plays that were given to the Senators in the second period. Taylor Hall took one of those penalties. It was an illegal hit to the head on Sanderson, and obviously he stayed in the game until the midway point of the second period. So if Jake Sanderson cannot play game 4, this is a depleted defense already. It's been depleted, really, for the last 5 to 6 weeks. There's no shot they're getting back in the series.
You wouldn't think so, not with that kind of defense depleted like that. They've been depleted all year, but going against different oppositions all the time is a lot different than playing the cream of the crop of the Eastern Conference in the Carolina Hurricanes. Well, maybe not the cream of the crop, I guess Buffalo is, but certainly of their side. So it would be very difficult if Sanderson is out for the Ottawa Senators to come back and get back in this series.
Late in the second period, both Freddie Anderson and Linus Ullmark were called on to make big saves. And then just under 4 minutes left in the second, Jordan Martinook swatted a puck back into his own zone, and it was picked up by Nick Cousins. He gets it to Drake Batherson. It's a tie game. There's energy in the building, and $1:23 later, it's Jason Blake giving the lead back to the Canes on a great seam pass by Miller. And you work so hard to get that one goal. And we know how difficult it has been for the Senators to score in this series. And to give that back 83 seconds later, it's got to be incredibly disheartening.
Well, it's a big pin goes in the balloon that had been blown up during the tie by Batherson. And so all of a sudden you're all energized. You're going to win the game. You'll be back in the series. It'll be 2-1, and boom. Now it looks like 3-0 when this puck goes in the net.
I thought the Senators were completely deflated in that third period. And the building, Canadian Tire Center, sounded like a library. And when you're trying to get back in a game, you need as much time on the clock as you could possibly work with. And Brady Tkachuk, for the third consecutive game, something bonehead. You call it bonehead Bouchard. How about bonehead Tkachuk here? Because he takes an interference penalty. It was a stick foul on Jordan Martinook in the neutral zone midway through the third period. You can't afford to be losing 2 minutes off the clock on stupid penalties.
No, you can't. And that was a bonehead play. You need all the time you can get to get back into the game. You're absolutely right. How about the play of Freddie Anderson, though? We can't go without talking about how good he was. Only 1 goal, again, on enemy territory in Ottawa. Thought he was terrific.
I didn't think he was tested all that much during this game, but that's not his fault either. His team is doing a great job checking. They're protecting him well. And when called upon, he's making the saves.
He is. He's playing really well. And again, there was a graphic that came up that showed how he's played in first rounds and second rounds, and it's been stellar. Problem is when that third round comes around. So let's see if they can even get to the third round this year. But he certainly has been good against Ottawa.
The Hurricanes go for the kill Saturday, 3:00 Eastern on TBS. The final game of the night, the Colorado Avalanche take a 3-0 lead against the LA Kings with a hard-fought 4-2 victory. Once again, as much as the Kings would have liked to have played ahead in this game, it's Gabe Landeskog with a long-range shot that kicked off the end boards and banked in off Anton Forsberg's skate at 5.5 minutes of the first period. So any visions that the Kings had of getting going early, that quickly got squashed.
Well, this is a horribly unlucky goal. I mean, Landeskog shoots it from almost 60 feet away, hits the end boards, and quickly Forsberg goes to jam against the post. I think he probably thought that Kadri was going to get the puck, but as he goes to jam the post, the bottom of his skate actually hits the puck into his own net, and that's how the Avalanche take the 1-0 lead.
I want to give the Kings some credit here because they weren't deflated after that goal. And of course, we'd seen earlier in the night what giving up a goal in a key situation meant to the Ottawa Senators. I thought the Kings played extremely well throughout the balance of the first period. They had a 12-7 shot lead, and they carried that early into the second period. And then what a bonanza for them. About 6 minutes into the second, there was a neutral zone turnover by the Avs. Quentin Byfield feeds the puck to Trevor Moore, who deflects it in. And in the process, Josh Manson clips Moore and takes a double minor penalty. So the shots are 16-9 by the Kings at this point. And you look at the 2-1 scores in games 1 and 2 of this series, I have a sense that the Kings are not intimidated by the Avs. They're not as good, and they play with considerably less margin for error. But they're toe-to-toe with them at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a very unlucky play for Josh Manson. There's no way that he meant to high stick Moore, but not only did he high stick him, but he cut him. So there's a 4-minute penalty. And how would you like to be Moore? You score a goal and get cut at the same time. So you're a hero in every respect. You're bleeding so that your team gets a 4-minute penalty, and you've just scored a goal.
And for Manson, that turned out to be the end of his night because after the Avalanche killed both penalties, he left the ice and didn't return. He was hit by Joel Edmondson in the first period and kind of bent over at the Kings bench when he absorbed that hit. So he leaves the game. Colorado playing down a man, but this is where Cale Makar really stepped up, and I think he was a little bit quiet in games 1 and 2, but he winds up scoring on a long-range shot through a screen of about 3 or 4 players to make it 2-1, and then he almost scores on a wraparound before the end of the second period, which would have made the score 3-1 at the time. And then he draws a penalty on Quentin Byfield early in the third. So if Makar is really going full steam, this is big trouble for anybody that's going to see the Avalanche down the road, the Kings and anybody else that awaits the Avs, should they, as expected, advance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When Cale Makar is on his game, playing his best, there's nobody else like him, I don't think, in the league. I don't think anybody compares to him as an offensive backliner like Makar.
Early in the third period, Anze Kopitar drew a penalty against Brett Kulak, but some misfortune for the Kings because Adrian Kempe fanned on a one-timer. Now he's got to get back and play defense on a 2-on-1. And an Arturi Lehkonen intended pass for Logan O'Connor goes in off Kempe's skate. It's a 3-1 lead for Colorado, the big insurance goal that they were looking for.
And that was just a death knell to get that shorthanded goal. It looked really bad at that point.
Kempe did get a little bit of revenge, tipping in an Artemi Panarin shot on the power play. That was a neutral zone penalty taken by Jack Drury against Byfield, another needless penalty in center ice. So it's 3-2, but as the game winds down, the Kings pull Anton Forsberg, and within 5 seconds, it's Brock Nelson hitting the empty net. And what stood out for me here, you never see big-time emotion from Anze Kopitar. And when he got to the net, he broke his stick. And I think the reality of his career now winding down came in full focus.
Oh, I think so. And unfortunately for the Kings, they didn't get the puck deep. Normally, you don't pull the goalie until you know you get the puck deep. It was still in the neutral zone when the goalie ran over to the bench. Brock Nelson got it away from the Kings in the neutral zone and was able to score. So then Kopitar, I think, knowing the game is obviously over, knowing they're down now 3-0, knowing the series is over, and knowing his career is over, that's probably everything that you saw with him breaking his stick.
Kings will try to stave off elimination in Game 4 Sunday, 4:30 Eastern on TNT. Before we look at Friday's schedule, Neil, want to ask you about the 3 series that are 3-0. We've just hit on 2 of them, Carolina over Ottawa and the Avalanche over the Kings. The other one being the Flyers over the Penguins. In the Penguins-Flyers series and the Hurricanes-Senators series, these 2 series feel like they're 3-0. Very seldom do you see series where it's 3-0 and it shouldn't be that way. But in those 2 cases, those series should be 3-0. In this Kings-Avalanche series, this is played very close, really the entire way. And even if the Kings succumb in this series, which we expect they're going to do, I have to think that there are other clubs paying attention to some of the things that the Kings have done in this series. They don't have the depth of the Avalanche, but for large chunks of this series, they have been able to skate and check with the President's Trophy winners.
I agree with you that they have been able to do that. I also think that the Avalanche has been playing a lot more conservatively than you might expect. In other words, they were saying, guys, we just got to win games. Don't get out of our game plan. Don't get away from your responsibility, your assignment to take a chance to score another goal. We just want to win games. We don't need to set records here. We just want to win games. So I think that they have played very disciplined as well. And when you play very disciplined, you're not going to score a ton of goals. But I do agree with you that the Kings have had a good showing here. It's 3-0, but it could be 2-1 very easily.
One of the things about the Avalanche that you and I have spoken about since earlier in the season when the Avs were number 1, and obviously they held that in goals against for the entire season, is how they were going to defend in the playoffs. And as we just mentioned, the Kings don't have a ton of scoring depth, but their discipline and their defensive structure, at least in this round, has been very good.
It has been excellent. If they can keep doing that, they're going to go very far, as most people predict.
The challenge will get a little bit stiffer also, so I reserve judgment until the playoffs are over on the Avs. Friday's schedule, Tampa Bay at Montreal, Game 3. That series tied at 1-1, 7 o'clock Eastern on TNT. What are you looking for there?
I just think this is going to be fun to see a game in Montreal with Tampa Bay. It's always a raucous atmosphere in Montreal, and knowing that the series is 1-1 and Montreal could go ahead, and anything could happen in this game. I could see it going either way. I think this is such a close series between these 2 teams, and it should be. They were tied in points. This is going to be a really good game to watch.
Victor Hedman also traveled to Montreal after he was ruled out of the series. So now you got to wonder if perhaps he does make some sort of appearance.
You've got to wonder, and I'm sure he wants to get back in. He's the captain of the team, and for whatever personal reasons he's been out of the lineup, I'm sure he's itching to get going.
I'll be curious to see if the Canadians come in a little bit overzealous with the juice in that building in the Bell Center. I think they've got to continue to play the same game that they have played, which has been in control. They know that they can play with this Tampa Bay team, but we also know that these are the number 1 and 5 most penalized teams in the NHL. So discipline's going to be important for the Habs here.
Yeah, and again, you got to go back to one place where there is a discrepancy in quality, and that is where I think it's in goaltending. Now, it hasn't shown up yet, but Vasilevsky is definitely the superior goalie in this series. And if he can be as Vasilevsky as he has been in the past, it's going to be hard for Montreal.
Is that a noun?
Vasilevsky, yes.
A Vasilevsky or an adjective or whatever figure of speech you want. Vegas at Utah, Game 3 being played at 9:30 on TBS, and that series tied at a game apiece. And I think one thing that we are seeing here, the Mammoth will be playing their first ever playoff game at home at the Delta Center. Do not look intimidated by the Golden Knights and their seasoning and the age and the experience and the championship pedigree. Utah has looked very much at home through 2 games.
I don't think they should be intimidated by Vegas because Vegas is so inconsistent. You just don't know what you're going to get out of the Golden Knights. And Utah, I mean, they're a young team. They're exuberant. They're ready to go. I think this thing could go either way in this next game in Utah.
This one feels like a longer series. I don't think anybody's winning this in 5. And I do believe that this matchup is not the worst thing that has happened for Utah here. So Vegas will be up against it. We'll see how they respond. Last game of the night, 10 o'clock on TNT. Edmonton and Anaheim. And this series is tied at a game apiece. As we'd mentioned yesterday, Connor McDavid, no points. In the first 2 games, got a little bit of a scare when he got nicked by the skate of teammate Matthias Ekholm. I expect McDavid to make the score sheet. I mean, I'm really going out on a limb here, taking the 6-time Art Ross Trophy winner to get on the board. But something else I believe is really of note here. All 3 of us, me, you, and Craig Button, picked the Oilers to advance in this series. But after watching the first 2 games here, I don't know if the Oilers defend well enough to win this series. I think this is going to be a longer series. And even though the Ducks don't have the star quality offensively that the Oilers have, their breadth of offense may be a little bit bigger than that of the Oilers. And I think when you look at how these 2 teams defend, which isn't very good, I not only think that the Ducks can take this into a deep series, Oilers better be careful, because I think potentially Anaheim could steal this. I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but from what I've seen from the Oilers, this does not look like a club that is going to dominate this series.
You got to go back to the same thing I said about the Montreal-Tampa series. Take a look at the goaltending. Connor Ingram is the goaltender of starting for the Edmonton Oilers. A guy that was in the American Hockey League that had passed through waivers is the starting playoff goaltender for the Edmonton Oilers. Anaheim, Lucas Dostal, who they actually traded longtime Duck goaltender John Gibson away so they could anoint Dostal as their number 1, and he is the Anaheim goaltender. Certainly, you've got to give the edge to Anaheim in the goaltending department. And you know what? That's a big deal, because if you don't trust your goaltender and you're not sure about him, you're not taking the offensive chances you need to take to score goals. And so let's see what happens in that department.
A final note before we leave you. Earlier in the show, we made mention of Jake Sanderson taking a hit to the head early in the second period in Game 3 against Carolina. That hit coming from Taylor Hall. Senators head coach Travis Green says that Sanderson is not doing well, will not play in Game 4 on Saturday. He has a concussion, and Artem Zub won't be available on the Sens back line either. Reach us at Neil@NHLWraparound.com or myself, Vic, at NHLWraparound.com. We're on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube. So leave a review or please subscribe. We are running polls throughout the entire first round, so weigh in on who you think you're going to win these series. And do us a favor. The 3-0s are pretty easy. Make your choices on the ones that are 2-1 or 1-1. You can also find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, at Ray8.tv, and Buzzer, BZZR.com. Our website is NHLWraparound.com. And on Thursday, we drop our latest spring cleaning in a quick take as we look at the Washington Capitals. We still have Nashville, Winnipeg, and San Jose to come. So enjoy the hockey on Friday. Neil and I will speak with you over the weekend.